Earth's retaliation was so brutal that the universe fell silent. The stars were quiet that night, or at least they seemed quiet. From the bridge of the human warship Horizon, Captain Ethan Clark watched the deep black of space stretch endlessly ahead. He had been staring at it for hours, but the emptiness made him uneasy rather than calm. Beside him, Lieutenant Olivia Grant moved with careful steps, checking the ship's systems and scanning for any sign of trouble. Both of them knew that danger could appear from nowhere. The galaxy was a big place, but humans had learned that even the smallest corner could hide something deadly. Ethan turned his attention back to the main screen. A small, human colony had been destroyed the week before. It was on the far edge of known space, barely more than a dot on the galactic map. The footage was terrible. Buildings reduced to dust, smoke rising into the atmosphere, people running and screaming before everything went dark. The aliens responsible, the Elorians, had called it an accident. The Council of Alien Races would not apologize. They never did. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had seen humans hurt before, but this time was different. This time the universe had underestimated them, and he would make sure they paid for it. "Captain," Olivia said softly, her voice breaking the heavy silence, "we can't just wait. They think we'll do nothing." Ethan nodded without looking away from the screen. He knew she was right. Humans had always been underestimated. That was how they survived. That was how they became strong. And now it was time to show the galaxy that humans were not weak. Far away in the quiet halls of the Earth Command Center, Lucas Bennett studied the data coming in from Horizon. He was a strategist, but not a soldier. He had never commanded a ship or led a fleet into battle. His strength was in thinking, in finding patterns and possibilities where others saw only danger. He watched the destruction of the colony again. Each time his anger grew. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought humans would respond with caution. They did not know humans. They did not know what humans were capable of. Across the galaxy, small human research stations were already changing. Civilian scientists, engineers, and even students had been asked to help convert peaceful technology into weapons. Everyday machines became tools of defense, and devices meant for communication became instruments of war. There was no panic. There was no chaos. Humans were focused. They had faced extinction before, and each time they had survived. Now they were preparing for something greater. In orbit around Earth, ships gathered quietly. Some were sleek, designed for speed and maneuverability. Others were large, armed with the heaviest weapons humans had ever created. None of them had left the planet openly. They moved silently through the dark of space, as if hiding behind shadows. But their eyes were wide open, watching, waiting. The humans had learned patience. They had learned to strike when the moment was perfect. And this time the moment was coming soon. Ethan walked along the bridge of Horizon, his boots clicking against the metal floor. He paused at the main console and looked at the young officers working tirelessly. None of them had seen true war yet, not the kind that changed the course of the galaxy. But they understood the stakes. They understood the anger of humans, the quiet rage that built over centuries of being underestimated and ignored. Ethan's hands rested lightly on the edge of the console. "Make sure every system is ready," he said. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "We move only when we are certain. One mistake, and the aliens will think they have a chance." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Lucas and a team of engineers ran simulations. They tested weapons, communications, and defenses, always looking for new ways to surprise the enemy. Every plan had a backup, every idea had a countermeasure. There was no room for error. Humans had learned that over centuries. Survival depended on thinking ahead, on being smarter than those who underestimated them. And now, humanity was ready. In one small sector, a young scientist named Sarah Hill worked on a new type of propulsion system. It could allow ships to move faster than anything the aliens had seen before. She worked in silence, her hands steady as she adjusted delicate machinery. She did not speak much, but her eyes burned with determination. She knew that her work would help humanity strike back, and that knowledge gave her strength. Every human on Earth, every human in space, felt the same way. They were ready to defend themselves, to show the galaxy what they could do. The Council of Alien Races, watching from their distant worlds, had no idea what was coming. They laughed at humanity's warnings. They dismissed reports of new weapons and new ships. To them, humans were still the same small species that had barely reached the stars. But they were wrong. Humans had learned to fight not just with strength, but with intelligence, with strategy, and with relentless determination. When the first strike came, they would not be able to recover. Ethan returned to the bridge of Horizon, standing in front of the main screen. The image of the destroyed colony still burned in his mind. He did not feel hatred in the way others might expect. It was deeper than that. It was the anger of a species that had been pushed too far. Olivia joined him quietly, her hand resting briefly on his shoulder. "We won't fail," she said simply. Ethan nodded. They both knew it was true. Humans had survived worse. Humans had thrived against impossible odds, and now the galaxy would see their strength. In the darkness beyond the horizon of space, the first human ships began to leave their hiding places. They moved carefully, as if testing the waters, but each move was deliberate. They were not reckless. They were patient. They were ready. And somewhere deep in the universe, alien observers noticed the movement, though they did not yet understand its meaning. A silent tension grew in the vast emptiness. Something was coming, something powerful, something the galaxy had not seen before. Ethan walked through the corridors of Horizon, checking on every crew member. Each one was focused, calm, and ready. There was a quiet confidence among them, a belief that humanity could overcome any challenge. It was not arrogance. It was experience sharpened over centuries of struggle. Humans did not fear the unknown. They met it head-on and they adapted. That was their strength. That was their power. And soon the universe would learn it as well. Back on Earth, Lucas reviewed the plans one last time. Every fleet, every ship, every weapon had been accounted for. The simulations had been run and rerun. Nothing had been left to chance. Humanity was ready. The anger of the past, the loss of the colony, and the underestimation of humans by the Council had all built toward this moment. The retaliation would be precise, calculated, and devastating. It would not just be war. It would be a message. As Horizon moved toward the edge of human-controlled space, Ethan stood in silence. The stars stretched before him, endless and cold. But in his heart there was fire. Humanity would not be ignored. Humanity would not be defeated. The small species that others laughed at for centuries had grown, had learned, and had become something the galaxy could not ignore. The first strike would not just punish the aliens. It would announce that humans had arrived, and the universe would never look at them the same way again. Lieutenant Olivia Grant checked the weapon systems one final time. "Everything is ready, Captain," she said. Ethan nodded. He knew the universe would remember this moment, though no one yet knew it. Humans were preparing to strike, and when they did, the silence of space would be broken by a force unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The anger of humanity was not just a reaction. It was a declaration. It was a warning, and it would echo across the stars in ways that no one could ignore. The horizon continued forward, leaving the familiar paths of human exploration behind. Every sensor, every system, every crew member was focused on the task ahead. The galaxy might have thought humans were weak, but they had never faced anything like this. And as the stars passed by, Ethan Clarke allowed himself a small, quiet smile. Humanity had waited patiently. They had prepared. And now it was time to show the universe what they were truly capable of. Everywhere across the human fleets, the same feeling spread. There was no fear. There was no doubt. There was only determination. Humans were ready to fight. Humans were ready to win. And in the darkness of space, the first stirrings of the retaliation began. The universe would soon realize that the small species it had ignored for centuries was now a force of unimaginable power. The silence of space would not last. Humanity's voice was about to be heard, and it would shake the galaxy to its core. The humans waited until the moment was perfect. From their hidden bases in remote space, the fleets moved silently, like shadows passing across the stars. No one suspected anything. The alien council had grown confident, believing that humanity was still cautious and weak. They were wrong. Captain Ethan Clark stood on the bridge of Horizon, watching the fleet reports coming in from every sector. Each human ship had been assigned a target, every strike carefully calculated. There was no haste, no panic. The humans had learned patience over centuries. They knew that timing was as powerful as weapons. "Begin the operation," Ethan said quietly, his voice carrying calm authority. Every officer on the bridge felt the tension, but none of them faltered. Lieutenant Olivia Grant monitored the communications channels, listening for any sign that the aliens had discovered their plans. So far, there was nothing. Silence stretched across the galaxy, and it worked in their favor. "No movement from the Council fleets," she reported. "They have no idea what's coming." Ethan nodded, his eyes narrowing. He knew that the first strike had to be precise. Too much damage could reveal them too soon. Too little, and the Council would think humans were still weak. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, a small alien outpost orbited a gas giant. It was lightly defended, designed to monitor local space and report back to the Council. The humans had identified it as the perfect test target. From the darkness of space, Horizon and 3 other human ships moved into position. Each vessel was nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Sensors showed the alien defenses were minimal, but the humans treated the target with respect. There would be no mistakes. Lucas Bennett watched the operation unfold from Earth. He had spent weeks planning this strike. Every detail had been analyzed, every possibility considered. The humans had built their weapons not just to destroy, but to confuse and overwhelm the enemy. Ordinary energy pulses would melt alien shields in seconds. Explosive charges were hidden in small satellites that could be launched from orbit, striking multiple points at once. Humanity had turned technology into art, and now it was time to use it. On Horizon, Ethan gave the final orders. "Fire the first wave." The command was simple, but its consequences would ripple across the galaxy. Human ships released small attack drones, invisible to alien sensors, which moved silently toward the outpost. Each drone carried a charge designed to disable systems rather than destroy the station immediately. The goal was chaos and fear, not just destruction. Olivia's fingers moved quickly across her console. She guided the drones into position, watching as they slipped past detection fields and entered the alien outpost's perimeter. Within moments, the drones released their payloads. Lights flickered across the alien station as systems failed, alarms screamed, and confusion spread among the alien crew. Panic erupted in the control room of the outpost, but it was too late. The humans had already won the first round. From the Council's central world, alerts began to come in. Sensors detected unusual activity at the edge of their territory. The alien officers who had once laughed at human warnings suddenly realized that something was wrong. Reports came too slowly. By the time they understood the scale of the operation, multiple outposts had already been disabled. The humans were not attacking randomly. They were precise, coordinated, and unstoppable. Ethan Clark watched the reports coming in. "Prepare the second wave," he said. His voice was calm, but inside he felt a surge of satisfaction. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. The Council thought humans would beg for peace after the loss of one colony. They thought humans would hesitate to strike back. They were wrong. Humanity would not ask for mercy. Humanity would take what was owed, and the galaxy would see their power. On another world, Maya Lewis commanded a small strike group of human ships. Her mission was to disable a communication hub used by the Council to coordinate their fleets. She had trained for years for this moment. Her crew trusted her completely, and she trusted them. Approaching target, she said. Her voice was steady, betraying none of the tension she felt. All systems ready. We strike in 3, 2, 1. Human ships launched a precise attack, bypassing the hub's defenses and planting charges designed to disrupt communication networks. Within minutes, the hub went dark. The Council fleets, spread across multiple systems, were cut off from each other. Confusion spread like wildfire. Human strategy relied on the Council's inability to respond quickly, and it was working perfectly. Back on Horizon, Ethan monitored the progress. Each operation was executed with precision. Every human ship acted as if it were a part of a single mind, anticipating each move and adjusting instantly. The aliens had never faced anything like it. They had fought wars before, but never against a species that combined intelligence, creativity, and fearlessness in battle. Humanity had turned survival into a weapon. On Earth, Lucas Bennett watched the news feed from human ships. Engineers, scientists, and civilians were celebrating quietly in secure locations. The first phase of Retaliation had been a success. The Council would be forced to take notice. The humans had made their first move, and it was devastating. Reports of destroyed outposts, disabled communication hubs, and confused fleets began to circulate. The galaxy was waking up to a new reality. Humans were not weak, humans were not to be underestimated, and humans had arrived as a force to be reckoned with. At the same time, smaller human teams worked in secret. They infiltrated supply depots and disabled alien logistics systems. These operations were surgical, leaving no trace of human presence until the damage was done. Aliens began to panic, realizing that their enemies were everywhere at once. Humans could strike from orbit, from hidden stations, and from ships that no one had seen. Fear spread faster than destruction, and that fear was exactly what humanity wanted. In the Council's central command, chaos reigned. Officers argued and blamed each other. They had underestimated humans, and now they were paying the price. Every failed communication, every destroyed outpost, and every confused fleet reminded them of their mistake. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for centuries, and now the laughter had stopped. In its place was a silent fear, a quiet understanding that the humans were not the species they had thought. On Horizon, Ethan Clark watched the galaxy map. Reports from every human ship were flowing in. Each one told the same story. Humans were hitting their targets with perfect precision, and the Council had no idea how to respond. The humans were not fighting recklessly. They were striking with intelligence and strategy, combining technology, timing, and creativity. Every move was designed to teach the aliens a lesson they would never forget. Lieutenant Olivia Grant worked alongside Ethan, tracking every alien movement and adjusting human positions as needed. "They're trying to regroup," she said, her voice tense but focused. "They don't understand our tactics yet," Ethan nodded. "Let them try. They will learn soon enough." Humans did not rely on brute force alone. They relied on thinking, on adapting, on using every advantage they had. And right now, that advantage was overwhelming. Maya Lewis returned to Horizon's communication channel. "Phase 2 completed," she reported. "Communication lines destroyed, supply routes disrupted, alien fleets scattered and confused." Ethan allowed himself a small nod of approval. Humanity had struck not just with weapons but with intelligence. Every action had purpose. Every strike sent a clear message. Humans would not be ignored. Humans would not be defeated. Across the galaxy, reports continued to pour in. Humans had disabled outposts on distant planets, intercepted convoys, and even neutralized alien surveillance satellites. The Council fleets were forced to retreat or risk complete destruction. Humanity's retaliation was not just effective, it was terrifying. Alien species who had once mocked humans now feared them. The stories of the humans' fury began to spread, whispered among councils and fleets alike. Ethan Clarke watched it all unfold. He did not feel pride in the way one might expect. He felt satisfaction, a calm knowledge that humanity had done what it needed to do. Humans had been pushed too far. They had been underestimated and laughed at for centuries. Now the galaxy was learning a truth it had ignored for too long. Humans were strong, humans were clever, and humans were unstoppable when they fought for survival. On Earth, Lucas Bennett reviewed the next phases of the operation. The first strike had been successful. The Council fleets were scattered, communication networks were down, and panic was spreading. Now it was time to keep the pressure. Humans had prepared for this. They had thought through every scenario. Every fleet, every ship, every soldier knew what they had to do. Humanity was not just responding to an attack. Humanity was showing the universe what it meant to be human. In a quiet corner of space, small teams of human ships moved toward their next objectives. They were unseen, undetected, and unstoppable. Every action was calculated. Every strike was precise. Aliens began to realize that humans did not fight like any species they had faced. Humans adapted. Humans learned. Humans thought ahead. And every time the aliens made a move, the humans were already ready with a counter. Ethan Clarke stood on Horizon's bridge, looking out at the stars. The silence of space was no longer calm. It was tense, filled with the knowledge that something had changed. The humans had made the first move, and the universe had taken notice. Captain Clarke allowed himself a brief smile. Humanity had waited patiently. Humanity had prepared carefully. And now, humanity's voice was being heard for the first time in a long, long time. Lieutenant Olivia Grant looked at him. "Do you think they will understand?" she asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. "Not yet, but they will, and when they do, they will remember it forever." Humans were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting for justice, for survival, and for respect. And the first wave of retaliation had already begun to change the galaxy. The humans were moving like shadows across the stars, silent but deadly. Every alien outpost, every fleet, and every communication hub they struck sent the same message. Humans were here, humans were strong, and the universe would never underestimate them again. And in the darkness, far from Earth, the Council of Alien Races began to realize their mistake. Humanity had awakened, and their retaliation had only just begun. The universe had grown quiet, but that quiet was full of fear, for the humans had proven that their patience and intelligence could turn even the smallest species into a force that could shake the galaxy to its core. The galaxy was waking up to a new reality. Alien fleets had been scattered, communication hubs disabled, and outposts destroyed. The Council had begun to understand that humans were not what they had expected. Fear was spreading through their worlds, though none of them would admit it openly. They were confused, unsure, and desperate to respond. But humanity was already moving again. Captain Ethan Clarke stood on the bridge of Horizon, studying the reports coming in from across human-controlled space. Each ship had reported its successes, and each success had the same effect: terror in the hearts of the aliens. The humans were not reckless. Every strike had a purpose, every movement was planned. The Council fleets had no idea where the humans would appear next, and that uncertainty was their greatest weakness. Lieutenant Olivia Grant worked at her console, tracking enemy movements and adjusting human positions. "They're regrouping near the Tarsus sector," she said quietly. "They're trying to form a defense, but they don't know where we will strike next." Ethan nodded. "We'll let them believe they have time. That's when we hit hardest." Humans had learned that patience could be more powerful than weapons. The Council had underestimated that patience, and it would cost them dearly. In a hidden orbit above a distant planet, Small groups of human ships prepared for the next phase. Maya Lewis commanded one of these strike groups. Her mission was to neutralize the alien fleets gathering near the Tarsus sector before they could organize a counterattack. She moved her ships carefully, weaving through asteroid fields and dark regions of space to avoid detection. Every captain under her command knew the plan perfectly. There was no room for mistakes. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Lucas Bennett monitored the progress of the operations. He had designed the strategy so that each strike built on the previous one, creating confusion, fear, and chaos. The humans had planned for every possibility, anticipating the Council's responses. Every failure of the aliens was a success for humanity. Every panic in their ranks proved that the humans' intelligence and patience were more powerful than any alien weapon. Ethan Clark turned to his officers. "Prepare for the main strike," he said. "We will hit the Council fleets while they are disorganized. We need maximum impact, minimum risk." Lieutenant Grant adjusted the targeting systems, ensuring that every ship under Horizon's command would act like part of a single mind. Humanity had mastered coordination and precision, and the aliens would soon discover how deadly it could be. The humans approached the Tarsus sector quietly. Sensors showed the Council fleets trying to form a defensive line, but they were scattered, confused, and slow. Humans had already disabled key communication satellites, preventing coordination. The alien officers had no idea how many human ships were in the area. That uncertainty was exactly what the humans wanted. Maya Lewis gave the signal. "Engage," she said, and the human ships moved as one. Energy pulses struck the Council ships, bypassing their shields with techniques no one had seen before. Alien crews scrambled, but their movements were disorganized. Ships that had been proud symbols of power disintegrated in seconds. Humanity did not waste effort on long battles. They struck quickly, decisively, and moved on. On Horizon, Ethan watched the battle unfold. Reports came in from every human ship. Outposts had been destroyed. Fleets had been scattered. Communication hubs were down. The Council's forces were collapsing under the pressure. Humans had proven that intelligence, coordination, and patience could overcome raw power. The galaxy had mocked humanity for centuries, but now those same humans were teaching lessons in ways the aliens would never forget. Lieutenant Grant monitored the alien movements, noting that their panic was spreading. "They're trying to retreat," she said. "They can't regroup fast enough." Ethan nodded. "Good, let them run. Every second they waste is another chance for us to strike." Humans were not cruel, they were smart. They used every advantage they had, turning every moment into a weapon. Back on Earth, Lucas Bennett prepared the next phase of the operation. The humans had disrupted the Council's forces, but there was more to do. Supply lines needed to be cut, fleets needed to be chased down, and the message had to be clear. Humans would not be ignored. Every team, every ship, and every human in the operation understood their role. Humanity had become a force that could not be stopped by fear or numbers alone. In the Tarsus sector, alien fleets scrambled desperately. They had never seen humans fight like this. Humans did not rely on brute force alone. They adapted, they learned, and they used intelligence to strike where the enemy was weakest. Every alien officer knew they were in trouble, but they could not figure out how to respond. Every move they made was anticipated and countered. Fear grew in their ranks, spreading quickly through the fleet. Maya Lewis moved her ships with precision. Each strike was carefully calculated. Alien vessels that had once been symbols of pride were reduced to nothing. The humans were relentless, but they were not careless. Every victory was used to set up the next one. Humanity's retaliation was not just destruction, it was strategy. The Council fleets were collapsing under the pressure, and the humans did not even have to risk themselves unnecessarily. On Horizon, Ethan watched the alien commanders struggle. "They're learning too late," he said. "They never expected this." Lieutenant Grant smiled faintly. We've always been underestimated. That's our advantage. Ethan nodded. Humans had survived worse than this. They had been pushed to the edge before, and they had thrived. The galaxy had made a mistake, assuming humans were weak. Now, that mistake was costing them dearly. Far from the battle, Lucas Bennett observed every detail. The humans had not only destroyed ships, but they had broken morale. Fear spread faster than weapons. The Council's officers argued and blamed each other, unable to coordinate an effective response. The humans had shown that intelligence, patience, and strategy could be more powerful than numbers and raw force. Humanity had turned survival into a weapon, and now it was being used across the galaxy. Maya Lewis returned to the communications channel. Sector Tarsus cleared, she reported. Council fleets scattered. Communication lines disrupted. Enemy morale is collapsing. Ethan allowed himself a small nod of satisfaction. Humanity had struck hard and with purpose. Every alien officer now knew that humans were not to be underestimated. Every fleet that had laughed at humans now feared them. The first true shock of humanity's retaliation had arrived. Across the galaxy, alien worlds whispered rumors of human strikes. They told stories of entire fleets disappearing in moments, communication hubs falling without warning, and intelligence networks crumbling. The fear was quiet but growing. The Council had underestimated humanity for centuries, and now their mistake was being exposed for everyone to see. Humans were not just survivors. They were fighters, strategists, and innovators. They were unstoppable when pushed to the limit. Back on Horizon, Ethan Clark addressed his officers. "This is only the beginning," he said. "We've shown them our strength, but there's more to do. We will continue to strike until the Council understands that humanity cannot be ignored." Lieutenant Grant nodded. "They will learn, and when they do, they will remember it for the rest of their lives." Humans were not cruel. They were determined, focused, and smart, and that combination made them more dangerous than any weapon the aliens had ever seen. In the following days, human fleets continued to hit targets across the galaxy. Outposts were destroyed, supply lines cut, and fleets disorganized. The Council scrambled to respond, but every move was anticipated and countered. Humans had learned from centuries of struggle that patience, intelligence, and strategy could overcome even the strongest enemies. Each strike was designed to teach a lesson. Humanity was not weak, and humanity would not be ignored. Maya Lewis led her ships through the chaos with calm precision. Every maneuver was perfect, every strike effective. The alien fleets had never seen anything like it. Humans were not reckless. They were unpredictable, intelligent, and ruthless when necessary. The Council fleets were forced to retreat, unable to regroup or respond effectively. Humanity's retaliation was working exactly as planned. On Horizon, Ethan Clark watched the reports coming in from every sector. "We've hit every target successfully," he said quietly. Communication hubs, fleets, outposts, they are all in disarray. The Council doesn't know what to do. Lieutenant Grant looked at him, her expression serious. "They underestimated us for centuries," she said. "Now they're learning the hard way." Humans had survived countless dangers in their history. They had been pushed to the brink before, and now they were showing the galaxy what that survival had made them, a species that could not be ignored. Lucas Bennett prepared for the next phase. The first wave of retaliation had been a success. The Council fleets were scattered, communication lines were down, and panic had begun to spread. Now the humans would continue to apply pressure, ensuring that the Council could not recover. Every ship, every fleet, every human involved in the operation understood their role. Humanity was united, focused, and unstoppable. As the humans moved through the galaxy, alien fleets grew more fearful. They had never faced a species that combined intelligence, adaptability, and strategy so effectively. Every counterattack failed, every plan was anticipated, and every fleet suffered losses. Humanity was not just fighting, they were teaching a lesson. And that lesson was simple. Humans were not weak, humans were not to be underestimated, and humans had arrived in the galaxy as a force to be reckoned with. Ethan Clark stood on the bridge of horizon looking out at the stars. The galaxy had grown quiet, but it was not calm. It was tense, filled with fear and uncertainty. The humans had made their first major strike, and the Council fleets had been shattered. Every officer knew that the retaliation had only just begun. Humanity was not finished. They would continue to strike, to teach the Council the cost of underestimating them. Lieutenant Olivia Grant watched the fleet positions on the screen. "They're scared," she said quietly. "They don't know what we'll do next." Ethan nodded. "Good, let them wonder. Every second of doubt works in our favor." Humans had learned that fear could be more powerful than weapons. And right now, the humans were using it to their advantage, striking at the heart of the alien council without risking themselves unnecessarily. Maya Lewis reported back. "All targets in our sector have been neutralized. Enemy fleets are scattered. Communication networks are down." Ethan allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had achieved something the galaxy had never seen. They had struck with intelligence, coordination, and strategy. They had shown the Council that humans were a species that could not be ignored. And they had done it without unnecessary loss. Across the galaxy, alien officers whispered to each other in fear. The humans had not just fought, they had outsmarted every fleet, outmaneuvered every defense, and destroyed every plan the Council had tried to implement. The Council had underestimated humanity for centuries, and now the price was clear. Fear spread faster than fire. The humans were not just fighting, they were changing the way the galaxy understood them. Ethan Clark looked at the stars and thought quietly. Humanity had waited patiently. Humanity had prepared carefully. And now, humanity had struck in a way that the Council would never forget. The first major shock of retaliation was complete, and the universe had begun to feel the weight of human power. The humans were not done. The galaxy would remember this moment, and every alien species would learn the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was brilliant, and humanity could not be underestimated. The silence of space was heavy, but it was not calm. The galaxy had begun to notice the humans in ways it had never done before. Alien fleets that had once moved with confidence were now hesitant, unsure of what to do. Every outpost they tried to organize was already under human observation. Every communication they attempted was likely being monitored. Humanity had become a shadow across the stars, precise, patient, and unstoppable. Captain Ethan Clark stood on the bridge of horizon, looking at the galaxy map. Ships and fleets moved like pieces on a board, carefully positioned, ready to strike. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were taking control of the situation, showing the Council that every action had consequences. Ethan's eyes were steady, but inside, a quiet fire burned. Humanity had waited long enough to be underestimated. Now, the universe would learn what it meant to provoke them. Lieutenant Olivia Grant monitored the fleet positions, noting the scattered Council forces. "They're trying to regroup near the Doran system," she said, "but they are slow and their morale is low." Ethan nodded. "That will make it easier. Prepare the strike. We hit them before they can form a solid defense." Every human ship followed the same plan. Coordination and patience had become weapons in themselves. The aliens were strong, but they were predictable. Humans had learned to exploit predictability with precision. In the Doran system, human strike groups moved carefully through asteroid belts and regions of dark matter. Maya Lewis commanded one of these groups, her eyes sharp on the sensors. "The enemy is forming lines," she reported. "They think they can stop us if they move fast enough." Ethan's voice came through the channel. "They won't be fast enough. Let's remind them that humans adapt and strike where it hurts the most." Small human teams had already sabotaged supply routes and disabled communication satellites. The Council fleets were cut off from coordination. Every attempt to form a defense was delayed or blocked entirely. Panic was spreading, and the humans used it to their advantage. Ships that had been symbols of alien pride were being destroyed one by one, their crews unable to respond effectively. Humanity was teaching a lesson through fear and strategy, not chaos. On Horizon, Ethan watched the reports. Every strike was a success, every alien ship destroyed or forced to retreat. The Council had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. Humanity's retaliation was not just about destruction. It was about teaching the galaxy a truth. Humans were clever, adaptable, and relentless when pushed too far. Lieutenant Olivia Grant tracked the movements of the remaining Council fleets. "They're trying to retreat to their homeworlds," she said, "but they are slow. They can't escape all of us." Ethan nodded. "Then we make sure they don't. Humanity does not leave loose ends." Human strategy relied on patience and precision. They did not waste resources on battles they did not need to fight. Instead, they struck where it mattered, and the Council fleets could do nothing to stop them. Maya Lewis gave the signal to engage. Human ships moved as one, striking with energy pulses and missiles designed to disrupt shields and destroy key systems. Alien ships fired back, but their attacks were scattered and ineffective. Humans had anticipated every possible move. Every strike was designed to disable, confuse, and terrify. Alien crews began to understand that they were facing a species that did not fight like any other. Humans adapted, predicted, and overcame. Across the galaxy, other human teams were performing similar operations. Supply stations were destroyed, communication hubs disabled, and fleets forced to retreat into smaller groups. The Council had no chance to recover. Humanity had not just struck physically. They had struck mentally, creating fear and confusion that spread faster than weapons. The universe was beginning to understand the cost of underestimating humans. On Horizon, Ethan Clarke allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. "They're breaking apart," he said. "Every fleet, every officer, every planet they control, they are all realizing the truth. Humans are not weak. Humans are not to be underestimated." Lieutenant Grant smiled faintly. "They'll remember this for the rest of their lives, and they'll fear us the same way they've never feared anyone before." Humanity had turned fear into strategy. They had used intelligence, patience, and timing to overwhelm a species far larger and more powerful than themselves. Back on Earth, Lucas Bennett monitored every operation. The humans had achieved total control in multiple sectors. Alien fleets were scattered, and communication networks were failing. The Council had tried to respond, but each attempt had been anticipated and countered. Humanity had proven that a small species could dominate with strategy, precision, and patience. Every human involved understood that their success was not just about weapons. It was about the strength of their minds and the unity of their actions. In the Doran system, Maya Lewis maneuvered her fleet carefully. Every alien ship that tried to escape was met with swift, precise strikes. Humans did not waste time in long battles. They disabled and destroyed targets quickly, leaving no room for retaliation. Alien officers could not understand how humans were so coordinated, so intelligent, and so ruthless when necessary. The Council had made a mistake, assuming humans were a species to be ignored. That mistake would cost them everything. On Horizon, Ethan Clarke spoke to his officers. "We've shown them our strength, but we're not finished. Every fleet that survives is a threat we can remove. Every planet that remains under their control is an opportunity to teach them a lesson." Lieutenant Grant nodded. "They will remember this. They will fear us, and they will know that humans are unstoppable when pushed too far." Humanity had become a force that no one could ignore. Their patience, intelligence, and unity had turned them into more than fighters. They were a power that reshaped the galaxy. Across human-controlled space, the same message spread. Aliens who had once laughed at humans now feared them. Stories of destroyed fleets, lost communication, and scattered outposts spread quickly. Every alien species that had doubted humanity now hesitated, unsure of what to do. Fear had become a weapon as effective as any missile or energy pulse. Humanity had shown that it could fight and win not just through strength, but through intelligence, patience, and strategy. Ethan Clark watched the latest reports come in. The Doran system was cleared. Remaining alien fleets had retreated or been destroyed. Supply lines were cut. Communication networks were down. Panic had spread across the Council's territories. Humanity had struck with precision and control, teaching the galaxy that humans were not a species to be underestimated. Lieutenant Olivia Grant monitored the situation. "They're trying to reorganize, but it's too late," she said. "They don't have the resources or the time." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. We give them just enough space to see the consequences, but never enough to recover. Humanity has waited too long to be underestimated. Now we show them our true strength." Maya Lewis led her fleet through the sector, ensuring that every alien ship was accounted for. Every strike was precise, every movement calculated. Humans had not just destroyed fleets, they had controlled space itself. The Council had been forced to retreat, unable to defend their territories or regroup their forces. Humanity's retaliation had not just been effective, it had been terrifying. Back on Earth, Lucas Bennett reviewed the results of the operations. Every fleet had been disrupted, every supply line cut, and every communication network disabled. The Council was in chaos. Fear spread faster than weapons. Humanity had proven that intelligence, patience, and unity could overcome numbers and raw power. The first shock of human retaliation had become a wave, and the galaxy was beginning to understand the cost of underestimating humans. On Horizon, Ethan Clark addressed his officers. "We've struck hard and smart," he said. "The Council fleets are broken, their planets in disarray, and their communications cut. Humanity has shown its strength, but we must continue. Every fleet, every outpost, every system under their control is an opportunity to remind them that humans are not weak." Lieutenant Grant nodded. "They will remember this, and they will fear us. They have no choice." Across human-controlled space, every fleet, every ship, and every human involved understood their role. The first shock of retaliation had become a wave, and the Council could not stop it. Fear spread faster than missiles or energy pulses. Alien fleets that had once been confident now moved cautiously, unable to trust their sensors or communications. Humanity had changed the rules of engagement. They had turned intelligence, strategy, and patience into weapons, and the Council had no defense. Maya Lewis reported to Ethan, "All remaining fleets in our sector have been destroyed or scattered, communication lines down, supply routes cut, enemy morale is collapsing." Ethan allowed himself a small nod. Humanity had achieved what no one had expected. They had struck not just with weapons, but with intelligence, coordination, and patience. The galaxy had underestimated them, and the mistake had been costly. In the silence of space, alien officers whispered to one another. The humans were not just fighters, they were unpredictable, intelligent, and relentless. Every plan had failed, every fleet had been scattered, and every communication network had been disrupted. The Council had underestimated humanity for centuries, and now the cost was clear. Fear spread faster than fire. The humans were not finished. The galaxy would remember this moment forever. Ethan Clark looked at the stars, thinking quietly. Humanity had waited, prepared, and now acted with precision. The Doran system and surrounding sectors had been taken with minimal losses, maximum effect, and total control. Humanity had struck fear into the hearts of the Council fleets, teaching them that humans were clever, adaptable, and unstoppable. The first wave of full-scale retaliation was complete. Lieutenant Olivia Grant watched the fleet positions. "They are afraid," she said softly. "They don't know where we will strike next." Ethan nodded. "Good, let them wonder. Every moment of uncertainty is another weapon in our favor." Humanity had learned that patience and strategy were as powerful as any weapon. Now, every alien fleet that survived the initial attacks would face a new reality. Humans were not to be underestimated, and humanity's retaliation had only just begun. The galaxy had fallen silent, not out of peace, but out of fear. Every alien species now understood that humans were not a species to be ignored. Humanity had struck with intelligence, patience, and precision, and the Council had no idea how to respond. The humans had changed the rules of engagement, teaching the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for generations. Ethan Clarke looked out at the stars. Humanity had waited patiently. Humanity had prepared carefully. And now, humanity had shown the galaxy what it could do. The first shock of retaliation had become a wave of fear and control. Every alien fleet, every outpost, every communication line had been affected. Humanity had made its statement, and the universe had no choice but to listen. The galaxy had grown silent. But it was not peace that filled the void. It was fear. Every alien species, every fleet, every council officer now understood the truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unstoppable when provoked. Captain Ethan Clarke stood on the bridge of Horizon, looking at the scattered reports from human fleets across the galaxy. The first strikes had been devastating. The second wave had shattered fleets, destroyed outposts, and disabled communication networks. Now humanity was ready to finish the operation. Lieutenant Olivia Grant watched the sensors closely. "Every fleet we've tracked is either destroyed or fleeing," she said quietly. "The Council doesn't know what to do. Their command structure is broken." Ethan nodded. "Good. We give them one last chance to understand. After that, they will know the cost of underestimating humanity." The humans were not cruel. They were focused, patient, and precise. Their goal was not to destroy for the sake of destruction, but to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. In a distant system near the Council's central world, Maya Lewis led a strike fleet. Her mission was clear: neutralize the remaining fleets, capture key strategic positions, and force the Council to acknowledge that humanity could not be ignored. Every ship moved with calm precision, slipping through asteroid fields and dark regions of space. The humans had mastered coordination. Every captain, every pilot, every crew member knew their role. The aliens would have no chance to regroup. Back on Earth, Lucas Bennett monitored the operations. Every human fleet was reporting success. The Council fleets were scattered, supply lines destroyed, and key planets isolated. Panic was spreading faster than any human weapon could move. The Council had underestimated humanity for centuries. Now, they were paying the ultimate price. Every plan they tried to implement failed. Every fleet they ordered into battle was destroyed or scattered. Humanity had become a force beyond their comprehension. Ethan Clarke stood in front of the main screen on Horizon. The Council fleets were in chaos. Ships that had once represented power and pride were now drifting lifelessly through space, their crews dead or surrendering. Communication networks were failing. Alien officers struggled to organize what little remained of their forces. Humanity's retaliation had become total control, and the Council was powerless to stop it. Lieutenant Olivia Grant adjusted the targeting systems. "They're attempting to regroup near the central system," she said. "But they are slow, disorganized, and demoralized. We can hit them before they recover." Ethan nodded. "Then we give them no chance. Humanity has waited too long to be underestimated. Every strike must be perfect. Every move calculated. That is the only way to finish this." The humans did not rely on brute force alone. They relied on intelligence, patience, and strategy. That combination had brought them this far, and it would finish the Council once and for all. In the central system, Maya Lewis prepared her fleet for the final assault. "They think they can defend their homeworld," she said over the comms. "But they are wrong. They have no idea what is coming." The alien fleets tried to form defensive lines, but every move was anticipated by the humans. Ships were struck before they could fire, shields disabled before they could recover, and communication networks were jammed before they could call for reinforcements. Panic spread through the Council fleets like wildfire. On horizon, Ethan watched the battle unfold. Every report confirmed the success of human strategy. Fleet after fleet fell to precise, coordinated strikes. Supply lines were cut, planetary defenses neutralized, and communication satellites disabled. The Council had no way to respond effectively. Humanity had turned their patience, intelligence, and coordination into weapons more powerful than any alien technology. Lieutenant Grant noted the collapse of alien morale. "They're trying to surrender in pockets, but they don't know if it will save them," she said. Ethan nodded. "Let them surrender where they can. Let them understand the consequences of underestimating us. Humanity has not fought for conquest. We fight for justice, for survival, and for respect." The humans were not merciless. They were precise. They struck where it mattered most, teaching lessons that no alien species would forget. In the Doran and Tarsus sectors, human fleets continued their attacks. Outposts were destroyed, fleets dismantled, and communication networks disabled. The Council attempted to coordinate counterattacks, but every move failed. Human strategy had anticipated every possible scenario. Every alien plan was countered, every fleet destroyed, and every supply route severed. Humanity had achieved total control over the Council's remaining forces. Maya Lewis led her fleet in the final push. Every strike was calculated, every move anticipated. The aliens could do nothing to stop the humans. Ships that had once represented centuries of power now drifted lifelessly through space. Communication networks were silenced, supply lines cut. Alien morale had collapsed entirely. Humanity had turned fear into a weapon, strategy into destruction, and patience into total control. Back on Earth, Lucas Bennett reviewed reports from every human fleet. The Council was in complete chaos. Planets that had been under their control were isolated. Fleets had been destroyed or scattered. Communication networks were down. Panic had spread across the Council's worlds. The humans had demonstrated that intelligence, coordination, and patience could overcome numbers, raw power, and technology. Humanity had proven itself as a force the galaxy could not ignore. On horizon, Ethan Clark addressed his officers. "The final wave begins now," he said. "Every fleet, every planet, every communication network that remains under Council control is a target. Humanity will finish what it started. Precision, coordination, and intelligence will guide every strike." Lieutenant Olivia Grant nodded. "They will remember this. The universe will never look at humans the same way again." Humanity had grown from a species once underestimated into a power beyond imagination. The human fleets struck the Council fleets with unstoppable precision. Ships were destroyed in moments, shields disabled before they could react, and supply lines severed entirely. Alien officers tried to organize a response, but it was too late. Humans had already anticipated every move. Every fleet that attempted to regroup was struck down. Every planet that tried to resist was isolated and neutralized. Humanity had turned patience and intelligence into unstoppable power. Maya Lewis reported the success of her fleet. Central system secured. Remaining Council fleets destroyed or scattered. Communication networks down. Enemy morale collapsed. Ethan allowed himself a small nod. Humanity had achieved what no one had expected. They had struck with intelligence, coordination, and patience. The Council had underestimated them for centuries. Now every alien species understood the cost of that mistake. Across the galaxy, the Council officers whispered in fear. The humans had not just destroyed fleets, they had destroyed hope. The alien fleets were broken, their communication networks silenced, and their planets isolated. The universe had learned a harsh truth. Humans were not weak, humans were clever, and humans could not be stopped when pushed too far. On horizon, Ethan Clark looked out at the stars. Humanity had waited patiently, prepared carefully, and struck with precision. The Council fleets had been shattered, supply lines cut, planets isolated. The universe had fallen silent, but it was not peace. It was fear. Every alien species that had laughed at humans for centuries now understood that humanity was a force beyond comprehension. Lieutenant Olivia Grant watched the reports on her console. "The Council is trying to regroup on their central world," she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "It's too late. They cannot recover. Every move they make is already anticipated. Humanity has taken control, and the universe will never forget this." Humans had transformed patience, intelligence, and unity into weapons more powerful than any alien technology. Every fleet, every planet, every network that survived the initial strikes would now fall under human influence. Maya Lewis led the final assault on the Council's central world. Every ship moved with careful precision. Alien fleets tried to defend, but their attempts were futile. Energy pulses struck before shields could respond. Supply lines were destroyed before reinforcements could arrive. Panic spread through the Council forces like wildfire. Humanity had achieved total control over the remaining alien fleets. Back on Earth, Lucas Bennett watched as the final reports came in. The Council fleets had been shattered, communication networks destroyed, planets isolated, alien morale completely collapsed. Humanity had proven its power. The universe had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were not weak, humans were clever, and humans could not be underestimated. On horizon, Ethan Clark stood silently. Humanity had achieved what no one thought possible. They had turned patience, intelligence, and coordination into weapons more powerful than technology or numbers. The Council had underestimated them for centuries, and now the cost was clear. Every fleet destroyed, every planet isolated, and every communication network silenced proved that humans had arrived as a power beyond imagination. Lieutenant Olivia Grant smiled faintly. "They will remember this," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. "They will. And they will fear us. Humanity has shown the galaxy what it can do when pushed too far. Humans were not cruel. They were precise. They were focused. They had waited, prepared, and struck with intelligence. And now the universe had no choice but to listen." Across the galaxy, the remaining alien fleets surrendered. Planets opened their gates. Communication networks were silenced. Fear and respect spread through every Council world. Humanity had shown that it could not be ignored. Captain Ethan Clark allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had struck with patience, intelligence, and precision. The retaliation was complete. The universe had fallen silent, and this time it was silence born of awe and fear. Maya Lewis returned to Horizon's communication channel. All sectors secure. Enemy fleets destroyed or surrendered. Communication networks disabled. Central worlds under control. Ethan nodded. Humanity had achieved total control. The Council fleets were no longer a threat. Alien officers understood that humans were not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and unstoppable when provoked. Lieutenant Olivia Grant looked at the stars. "They've learned the truth," she said. "Humans are not to be underestimated." Ethan nodded. Humanity had waited, prepared, and acted. The universe had fallen silent, and for the first time, humans were recognized not as a species to be ignored, but as a force beyond comprehension. Captain Ethan Clark allowed himself a quiet thought. Humanity had survived countless dangers, had been underestimated for centuries, and had finally shown the galaxy what it could do. Every strike, every strategy, every act of patience had led to this moment. The Council fleets were destroyed, alien worlds were in chaos, and the universe had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were not weak, humans were brilliant, and humans had arrived. The stars stretched endlessly before horizon, silent and still. The Council had been broken, fleets destroyed, and communication networks silenced. Humanity had taken control of the galaxy's attention, and every species would remember this day. Fear and respect spread across alien worlds. Humanity had struck with intelligence, patience, and precision, and the universe had no choice but to listen. Ethan Clarke turned to Lieutenant Olivia Grant. Humanity has waited patiently. Humanity has prepared carefully, and humanity has spoken. The universe has fallen silent because it now knows our power, Olivia nodded, and they will never forget it. The humans had achieved what no one thought possible. They had shown the galaxy their strength, intelligence, and unity. The retaliation was complete, and the universe would never again underestimate humanity.